Welcome back to Her Rules Radio. This is Alex Jameson, your hostess. I am sitting across a table in a tiny, tiny room from Stephanie Redlener. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
We are talking about something very important, very near and dear to my heart. Powerful women.
Yes, we are.
We're all powerful women,
Yes, we are.
but there's some challenges that we're facing. You've created something called Lioness. And this is a coaching consultancy dedicated to helping those powerful women lead and live their lives from a place of power, pleasure, and purpose. Did you know at the age of 8 that that's what you wanted to do with your life?
I had zero clue.
Yeah, this was not a thing.
It wasn't a thing.
No.
Yeah. even if I thought I knew what I wanted to do, it didn't even exist yet.
It didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
No. So you have had, like most of us who are in a helping, healing, gathering profession, a series of traumas, trials, and tribulations that brought you to the work that you do. And we share some similarities along those lines. And one of the first things I read about you was that your brother died in a sudden accident when you were pretty young.
Yeah. I was soon to be 19. Right at a very pivotal age of figuring out what I'm going to do with my life.
Was this older brother, younger brother?
Yeah, he was 10 years older.
Mm-hmm.
And he died in a snowboarding accident.
Oh man, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
And what happened? I mean, I can't imagine losing a sibling,
Yeah.
and it must have rocked your world. And what came out of that?
Yeah, it's funny. Well, that I can't imagine what had happened just sort of triggered, and I remembered being like, holy shit. If I had thought about what would you do if you lost your brother, I would have said that exact same thing. You can't imagine. And then that happens. And then it's amazing how we kind of rise to the occasion as humans, right? Like, oh, I can't even fathom, but yet here we are with this situation. And so obviously it was very, very tragic for our family, and we grieved a lot, but what we also did was celebrate his life. And my brother was a lover of life, lustfully lover of life. Like, he was just went after it and really followed his dreams, followed his heart, and was just somebody who really took this life by everything that's possible in it. And so he was an inspiration to me, and in addition to who he was. And it made me realize, like, wow, we can literally die tomorrow. And so over time, once I got through the grieving process, I realized that we can die tomorrow. And so why not live in the way that brings me the most joy? And at 18, this was a huge gift to get. And so about 2 months later, I quit college and I moved to California. And I just continued to ask myself, what is my dream? And so he really, in his death, gave me the gift of life. Mm-hmm. The other thing that it did for me was give me permission to feel my feelings. I struggled a lot when I was young, and I didn't feel like I had the right to feel, because came from a good family and everything was good on the outside. Like, who am I to sort of feel these feelings? And so he gave me this permission to have some of the harder feelings.
You know, it's interesting, as you were saying, that you all grieved as a family and celebrated him. I have to be honest, I was like jealous. I was like, wow, that sounds like you guys did it right.
Yeah.
And there is no right way or wrong way to grieve. But it just the feeling I got from you saying that was like they were together in it. And there was permission to feel, and you were supported in that.
Yeah.
And that's not common.
I feel very blessed in that way to have come from that family. And what was amazing, that even literally as soon as a week after, when we started having everyone together and coming, there was times of great laughter, as much as there was times of great tears. And I think that really showed me that you can have all the feelings at once. And they don't need to be, oh, there was a death, so therefore I need to go into a dark hole and never come out. You can find humor in these darkest moments, and you can find joy in the darkest moments. So it really showed me the complexity of our feelings and human experience.
Yeah, it's interesting. So even though you had a supportive family and experienced through a really dark time. And you've had a lot of life success. You've had great things happen. You've achieved a lot along the way, and I want to talk about those. But you also mention on your website, Lioness, which is gorgeous, by the way.
Thank you.
Hello, pretty.
Thank
You talk about this flavor of imposter syndrome.
Mm.
Do any of us get through this life without it?
Yeah.
That's my question. But you have at times been afraid of speaking up and felt ashamed of what you felt.
Yeah. But again, like I was saying earlier, I felt like I didn't have the right.
Yeah.
I felt like, what do I have to add? And I really sort of struggled with the believing in myself, and I think it got harder and harder as my image of myself solidified.
Mm-hmm.
The belief in myself sort of diminished at the same time, because then I had an image to uphold.
So where did that come from if it wasn't from your family of origin? And maybe it was in lighter shades from your family, but if it sounds like they were a supportive, loving crew.
Yeah.
So how did it get to you? How did it get through you?
Well, I never took a traditional path.
Mm.
I don't have an MBA. I don't have these
right.
fancy titles.
So
I
who
don't
are you
have
then?
exactly. So who am I to believe what I do? Who am I to have authority in what I say? Who am I? And so I think I had to work through a lot of that to honor my value.
So what were these things that you were doing along the way that you're like, maybe I should have an MBA to be doing this?
When I was 26, I was coaching people who were in their 40s and 50s on their careers and what they should do with their life. And so I would often sit with them being like, oh shit, I think you should do this. And like there, so I was sort of, who am I, like a young chicken, to be able to actually guide someone in what they should do with their life. So that was sort of when it started.
Yeah. Well, how did you find yourself there? I mean, what set of skills did you develop? But really, what were what they call the soft skills? Was it intuition? Was it empathy? Like, what brought you to that coaching field?
My entire life, I've been fascinated and interested in how we all belong, and how do we fit in, and what do you love, and what do I love, and how do you roll, and how do I roll, and how do we make that something? And so when most kids were reading novels at 14, I was reading What Color Is Your Parachute?
Oh my God, my dad gave me that book.
It's such a good book.
The high school principal in him just could not stop himself from giving me that book.
It's really, and so it was like, what color is your parachute? What's my Myers-Briggs? What is my horoscope? Anything that was helped us learn about human nature I was fascinated by. And so I followed that thread throughout my career. I started in brand strategy and advertising, which is all about understanding humans and how we behave. I thought I was going off to get my PhD and moved to Africa. Instead, I became a recruiter because I got to talk all day long about what people wanted to do in their life and so it just sort of started to unfold.
That's so hilarious that you bring up that book and Myers-Briggs at the same time. So I'm like, maybe I should have spent less time reading B.C. Andrews books and more time on the What Color's Your Parachute book. Because I had both.
Right.
By the way, who's putting B.C. Andrews books in middle school libraries? I am not about banning books, but those books are not appropriate for middle schoolers.
It's really true.
But I read every single one.
Yeah.
Okay, on to the next question. So you're a recruiter, you're fascinated by human nature, what helps us belong, uncovering people's passions. What is it about? And that's tough, and I think it's getting easier as time goes on. Certainly for people of our parents' generation, it was harder. You were still more expected to fit in a box.
Yeah.
Although I feel like the box has changed a little bit, but there's still a box.
I think there's kind of always a box that you have to find your way out of, but I would say it's getting easier and harder. Our parents' generation, they had careers to choose from. Most people, 20 years ago had 1 or 2, 3 careers, and they kind of picked a path and they stayed on that path. Now, 20 years from now, people are going to have 134 projects they're working on. There's not even going to be a career thing. So, there are jobs that are being invented right now and continuing to be invented. So the path isn't clear. So it makes it even more important to really go inward and really ask yourselves those questions and what do I want to do, which is easy and scary at the same time.
It is. It really is, especially if you're finding yourself later in life and you haven't asked those questions yet. I came from a very one side was super, super creative, lots of artists. The other side was like very career oriented. Like my dad was a high school principal for his entire career.
Amazing.
My uncle, like in finance, same job, 30 years.
Right.
And here I am, like with a made-up job.
Yeah,
I'm going
totally.
to be a coach and an author, and I'm going to teach people about X, Y, and Z. And my dad's like, "What do you do?" Still, it's very confusing. So knowing how to continue to learn, like being a lifelong learner, so important. I think a lot of people are like, I want to be done now. I don't want to go to school anymore. But intuition. Being able to choose between the thousands of options that there are. How do you help people learn that? How do you help people to trust themselves and find that inner knowing?
How long do we have? No, I'm just kidding.
You've got 10 minutes.
No, I'm just
Go.
saying, like, no, intuition, what a big thing, right? This elusive,
It's the thing.
It's the thing, and how do we listen, and how do we know if it's the right thing? And so, first of all, just quieting down.
Yeah.
We'll take a minute, right? And listening to the sparks and all of that. So really going inward and taking time to do that, and then just exploring the beautiful thing about where we live and where we live right now in this world is we can make a decision and literally change our mind. We can say like, I'm going this way, and then you go that way and you learn like, oh, I like the writing part of this job and I hate the planning on this part of it, so how do I focus on my writing, So we have the ability to really sort of shape and mold and continue, I think, in a way we didn't.
Yeah. But it's scary.
Yeah.
Because it's constantly shifting. Being an entrepreneur, and I'm assuming you work with mostly entrepreneurs, but I could be wrong.
I work a lot with female entrepreneurs as well as women inside Fortune 100 companies, and so we're doing more big corporate jobs as well.
Okay. Now, part of your own journey in like creating what is now Lioness, you discovered like gathering with women was an important part of this process for you. So how did you join your first women's group or circle? What was that like? How did you stumble upon it? Did someone invite you? What was that all about?
Yeah, it was when I was pregnant and realizing that I wanted to show up and be a mom in the most empowered way. And at the time, again, going back to this, on paper, everything looked great and I had it all together and I had parts of me that I didn't kind of go there. And I was really nervous about not being the mom that my son needed. And so, I actually have no idea who told me, how I can't, but it was like when I discovered that there was such thing as a women's group, I was like, I need to go. And it was one of the first experiences of being around women in their full truth. And sort of like taking these quote unquote embarrassing, shameful things that we tend to not want to tell people and just laying it all out and realizing that by not saying it, it holds power inside of us.
I read recently Gloria Steinem's memoir. Did you read it?
No, I haven't read it yet.
So On the Road, or whatever it's called. She talks about how she brought the idea of women's circles back to the States from India. She went to India in the early 60s to learn about how women were gathering and leading this political movement that was really to stop the old practice of wives being thrown on their funeral pyre of their husband when he died. So it was truly a life and death activist circle that she was learning about and bringing back that became women's empowerment circles here in a new form in the 60s. And it has again, they've never ended, but they've continued to morph, and now there's circles everywhere for every topic. And for new moms, for entrepreneurs, for women in tech, and we need it. What do you see now that you've really become a master of belonging, understanding what helps people find their clarity, their purpose, and their sense of being? What do you see about being in circle for women that's totally necessary, but also what are the challenges for us? Like, why is it sometimes hard for women to be in circle, maybe for the first time with other women?
Yeah, well, first of all, it just made me think that I was thinking about it the other day, and I was having a conversation about we all of a sudden became a culture of lines. You know, like we were a culture of circles, right? That's how women used to gather.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden things became straight lines. And leadership and going into a line and this idea of gathering sort of went away. And you even look at New York City, right? We were in a city of like erect buildings.
On
like,
a grid.
On a grid, right? And so it's not how we roll. It's not how our system was set up. And so bringing back circles and this concept of we are all equal, we are all sharing in our journeys together. Your journey is my journey. And so I think circles have opened up, like revealed behind the curtain a bit more, and I'm not alone. And I think it's scary, and especially with women and women leaders who have had to act a certain way and be a certain way to get respect, get credibility, to kind of make it, quote unquote, right? And sort of prove themselves that if I share too much, I am at risk.
Yeah.
And so I think it's very intimidating for people who are experiencing it for the first time.
Yeah, it'll be used against me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I show myself too much and show how I really feel.
Right. Now, through your leadership coaching over the years, you have really woven in a particular set of tools. I'm sure that you're, bringing in all kinds of things from the Myers-Briggs that you read about when you were 13.
Yeah. Don't tell anyone.
Okay. But you also are bringing together leadership and sexuality. Tell me about that.
I know, it's a funny mix.
Not for me, because,
right,
my book's
right.
called Women, Food, and Desire.
Right, exactly. Well, I think so. I started off my coaching about 8 years ago and really focused on career and leadership and like being successful inside companies. And I just met women time and time again who were completely disconnected from the things that make them a powerful woman. Powerful, yes, and a woman. Like, especially between the ages of 38 and 42, I find are these really crazy, challenging times where I've spent my entire life working towards this career ambition. My ambition is driving me to make it, to prove myself, and then, oh shit, I'm 38, and like, do I want a partner? Do I want, like, what's my body want? What do I even want? I'm completely shut down. I valued achievement more than my sensuality or sexuality and all that, so it was like a missing piece in my coaching many years ago. Like, and so I went on the mission and I, not only to help them, but I've done it with myself and gone through it to really help women unlock that part of them.
Yeah.
Because it's a superpower that I think is missed in a lot of, especially in women as leaders.
It's interesting. It reminds me of what you said you learned from your brother's death.
Yeah.
That, or maybe you didn't say it exactly like this, but the impression I got was time is short. Life is short. And at that age, and I just went through that age, 38 to 42, you start to get this sense of, oh my God, I'm wasting so much time. Like, I don't have time to waste anymore. Yeah. So the parallels between those, like that thing that you learned at such an early, important age, and what women are now coming to, like, oh my, like, I need to get on this, but I'm not sure what this is.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, how does feeling good in my body and loving my body help me be in the boardroom where there are 10 men in the room? And how does, like, when I get triggered and feel anxious, how can I learn to self-soothe immediately in the meeting so that I come and speak from a voice of power? Yeah. So sexuality isn't just what happens in the bedroom, right? It's actually how we live through life.
Yeah, it's interesting, as I'm assuming women in leadership that you've worked with have been trained to squash emotions, touchy-feely, the soft stuff, the feminine in them to succeed. Yeah. And now you're saying, actually, no, let's bring all that out.
Yeah.
So, how do you do that? Give me the 101. What are the top 3 tips for bringing your femininity into the boardroom?
Yeah. Look, it doesn't mean like wear a goddess outfit and wear things and be like crazy emotional, right? But how do we bring it in and integrate to what it's like a muscle. right?
Mm.
We've worked this. And I really am like consciously trying to avoid the word of masculine and feminine, because I think even in that language it divides,
Yeah.
right? But we've really worked this achievement, productivity, like getting things done, muscle.
Mm-hmm.
It's what we value in our culture, all of that. So we're underdeveloped in this other side.
Yeah.
And so it requires slowing down, feeling your feelings, getting in touch with your emotions. So a lot of it feels softer,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not like softer, so we're just softer, but how does that actually play into how we are productive, how we set our vision, all of the stuff that is more masculine.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if pleasure, personal, physical, sexual pleasure isn't part of your coaching, is it?
It sure is.
It sure is.
It sure is.
Not necessarily in the workplace.
Right.
So how does it translate from you giving someone, a leader, a female leader, I'm giving you some pleasure practices.
Yeah.
How does that translate to benefits in the workplace for them?
I'm going to say this word lightly, but I mean, like in the biggest sense of a turned on woman, beyond sexuality, sexually turned on, right? A turned on woman who is alive and feeling good in her body impacts everyone she sees in that organization.
Yeah.
And if she is depleted and burnt out and tired, it also impacts everyone she touches in that organization. And so by really bringing, your life back up, and really tuning in to what makes you come alive in all the ways, it has like transformative effects in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's really accessing all parts of yourself that have been hidden.
Yeah, and honoring,
and it takes energy to squash those parts of us, by the way.
Totally.
I really think it does. It's not just that it's just quiet or dormant. No, like we've been unconsciously taking energy away from ourselves to quiet something.
Yeah, and it takes our power away.
Right.
And it takes, the more we can even just like have this emotional.
That's a problem. So you write on your website, part of your mission in your work is to help women leaders remove their armor and explore the more sensual, sensitive, intuitive parts of themselves. I have seen so many articles and stories about mostly male CEOs and male leaders, and they talk about how their intuition is one of their most important tools. That they still, even in the face of lots of data and studies and experts, like they still go with their gut and their intuition. There's rampant stories about a leader making an intuitive choice that leads to huge growth or opportunity. And yet, I think women still err on the side of, no, I'm going to be hyper prepared with the stats and data and not trust my intuition. Why is that? What's going on there?
Well, trust is the key word here, right? There's that statistic, and I'm probably going to botch it a little bit, but it tends to be that men need to feel 60% confident in their decision and they go after it, while women need to feel 100% prepared, 90% prepared, right? And so it's this need of like, I can't trust that voice inside.
Right.
I can't, and it's also speaks to the disapproval that we have of ourselves. We are like running around. There are amazing women running out there who are disapproving of themselves. And so I think kind of trust and approval go hand in hand. And so when we are constantly self-criticizing ourselves, I didn't do that well enough, or I could have done better, I wasn't more prepared, it like chips away at the ability to trust our intuition.
Yeah. So it's interesting, one of the strengths that is mostly associated with women, right? Women's intuition isn't being used by women in leadership roles. What a shame.
Total shame.
Really?
And it not only a shame, we need new leaders in the world.
Yeah, we do.
Men and women, right? And leaders, just because you're a woman and stepping into an old paradigm, leading in the way that we used to lead, doesn't necessarily represent new leaders, even though you're a woman. And so we need a new way, and I really see women as keys to unlocking that new way.
What is a story that you can share with us about a woman you worked with who was able to break through some of these challenges in herself, in her life, in her work, and what happened on the other side of it?
Let's see, give me a minute to think of that story. Let's see. I'm like racking my brain.
That's
now
okay.
of-
It's the end of the day, and I sprung
like-
it on you.
Like, who am I working with? Like,
I don't know.
Who are those 100 women that I've just worked with?
What's something that they've achieved?
This is kind of a softer story,
Mm-hmm.
but I had one client who was running marketing department for a big Fortune 100 company, and she was going through a lot of personal stuff, and she worked everything she did to keep that from her people, and so she could show up strong and show up in control and show up as the leader she thought that they needed until it got too much to bear. And she had this I gotta share my heart moment, and she took the risk, big risk, especially at that company, to share her story and what was going on. And the fear was that people would not follow her, not believe her, not this, all of that, and in fact it actually did the opposite.
Yeah.
More people saw her as the human she was, and therefore as the leader she was, and I think that was actually a huge moment for her.
Wow. I felt like my own shoulders like released just hearing that happen to someone. Yeah. That's amazing. Part of my passion in my own work has been helping women connect with their bodies and nourish their bodies so that they can create the dreams that are inside them and the work that they're inspired to do. Are there any challenges that you've had with your own self-care as you have stepped into your own leadership role, like self-care issues or energy or working yourself too hard, any of that?
Who, me? No. Just kidding. I wouldn't be doing this work if it was so easy for me. And of course, I've definitely had my own challenges, especially as a mom of a young child, and passion super big and wanting to achieve also. And for me, it's been I love my work so much that I can find myself in traps of doing it all the time. And sometimes when I slow down, it brings up how fucking tired I am, how depleted I am, and I find myself continuously working, despite how masterful I've become, of having to give myself permission to slow down, even though I love what I do.
Yeah. Are there specific, this is Her Rules Radio, where women learn how to live life by their own rules.
Oh yeah.
So are there a couple of rules that you have for yourself when it comes to, slowing down or how you nourish yourself?
One rule is called dance break. Another rule is it doesn't have to be perfect. So dance break, literally, it's late in the day, we're in this tiny room, it feels really like hot and stuffy in here. I'm tired, so I had a little dance party in the hall before I came. So really like giving myself these little moments. I also, one of my teachers said to me the other day, spaciousness is a state of mind. And I really have taken that into my life. We live busy lives. We're New Yorkers, we're busy, that's just the way life is, right? But like really taking the time to take little moments have been pivotal. But not only taking the little moments, seeing them as nourishment. It's one thing, like I'm going to take a 5-minute break or I'm going to go get a pedicure. But if you're on your phone, on the pedicure, while I'm getting a pedicure, right, I will say, it feels so nice on my feet. The way that he's touching my feet. The warmth of the water.
Savoring.
Savoring has been huge because it allows me to get the nourishment I need, even on the go.
Yeah. Savoring is one of my favorite all-time techniques.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
People can find, we could talk for another hour.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah. So we'll
TBD.
just have to have you back on the show.
Perfect.
People can find out more about you and your work at lioness.com. Are you a Leo, by the way? I don't
No,
know.
I'm an Aries. I'm a double Aries.
Me too.
Really?
Stop it.
Oh my god.
When's your birthday?
March 31st.
Oh, 27th.
Oh, really?
So close. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But I like it. I like the lioness in you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
I love
you.
what you're doing, and I appreciate you spending time with us today.
Thanks so much. It's been a joy to be here.